Hi there, my name's Tom Page, and this is The Worst Traveller, a podcast where I take your ears on a journey around the world. I don't always do things the best way, but I do things my way. So whether you're on the trip of a lifetime or sitting at home, put your headphones in and enjoy. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Worst Traveller, but this is not just any episode. Oh no, this is the 50th episode of the podcast, and for the very, very first time in the Worst Traveller history, this episode is not just an audio version, but also a video podcast as well. I've set up my camera, and this episode will be put out on YouTube on Tuesday as well. So this is really, really exciting. It's kind of going another step forward in the podcasting world. I've been doing it for nearly a year now. It will be a year on March the 3rd. And I'm really, really excited to kind of experiment with a few different things. So those of you who are listening on the podcasting services like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Deezer, Google Play, all those kind of ones, can now listen on YouTube. So if you have a bit more time, you just want to relax at home, you can see what I'm doing. So you can see me put up photos like this, and you can see what's on the bed behind me. You can see a load of different things. And then, of course, those of you who are on YouTube who maybe you don't have as much time as normal, maybe you've got to make your bed or you've got to go for a walk to the shops, you can listen to the podcast in your ears as well, which is really, really exciting. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for clicking play on what is an anniversary episode. And so in this one, I am going to be talking about the best way to travel the world. And that's not me saying that I have an idea of what it could be. That's not me saying this is right. All the other ways that you've traveled before are wrong. This is just kind of my suggestions, the ones that I've kind of gone through in my traveling life. Does that make sense? And what I've learned from that, and then kind of what I'm taking forward. So I'm going to talk about a lot of my experiences, one being backpacking without a backpack, so just and talk about how that has changed my perspective on things and what I like to do now. But before we jump into this episode, I just want to ask a massive favor, because obviously this is the 50th episode. This is a big occasion. Like, I've done my hair for this one, which is very unusual. Normally I just sit here naked. That's not true. That is not true at all. I would normally cut out there, but because it's a video podcast and this is all rolling in one shot, I have no choice but just to keep going throughout. So let's just carry on and move past that. What I want to say is, if you could do me a favor by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, maybe a 5-star, that would be lovely. And of course, those on YouTube, if you could subscribe, like this video right now, it just kind of, I suppose it does me a favor. It boosts The Worst Traveller in the algorithms of the world. And that is, that can't be a bad thing, surely. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. And then, of course, those of you who are new here, I just want to kind of run through the way the episodes normally work. And that is, of course, with a quiz, okay? And this week is no different. Just because it's the 50th episode, we're still doing a quiz, okay? And this one is all about world landmarks. And what's going to happen is I'm going to run through 5 famous landmarks. I'm sure you will know every single one. But can you tell me which country these are found in? That's where things could get tricky. Okay, so we're going to go through 5, and then I will, of course, reveal the answers at the end of the episode. So, number 1. Where in the world would you find Mount Everest? Those of you who can actually see the YouTube, there's a huge map behind me, which, I mean, you're not really going to see you're not going to see Mount Everest on that map. It's too far away. But yes, where in the world would you find Mount Everest? Question 2 is Machu Picchu. Which country is Machu Picchu in? World landmark number 3 is the Brandenburg Gate. Where would you find that one? Number 4, it could trick you, but let's hope it doesn't. The Spanish Steps is number 4. Where in the world would you find the Spanish Steps? Could be a trick question. Could not be a trick question. And then finally, number 5 is Petra, which I believe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And can you tell me where it is? Where in the world would you find Petra? And believe me when I say this, because if you haven't seen Petra before, when you see pictures of this, if you're listening to the audio podcast, when you look it up afterwards or on YouTube when I show you a picture of it at the end, you will want to go to this place. Like, it is just gorgeous. I personally have never been. I think that's why I'm the worst traveler. I do TikTok lives quite a lot, and I often kind of get asked, have you been to, I don't know, Bahrain? What do you think of this place in Saudi Arabia? And quite often I have to say, look, if you're looking for someone who's been in a lot of places and can give you advice, you've come to the wrong page. Like, at the top, it says the worst traveler. There should be no expectations, yet people still want to know stuff. And hopefully I can give advice. And that is what this episode is all about, of course. So I'm going to talk about 3 different ways to travel the world and give you some kind of anecdotes on the way. And hopefully you may take some of that advice and use it in the future, or you may just discard it and stop watching this video now. Or, well, I'd hope not. But anyway, to start with, we're going to be talking about solo travel. And I don't really want to touch too deeply on some of these stories at the beginning because they are referenced in other episodes of the podcast, which you can go and listen to. But I think my love of travel has always been there. Like, I cannot think of a moment where I thought, oh yeah, maybe I'd like to do traveling when I was older. It's always been like something that's been burning away. Like, it's always had that air of curiosity about it. Like, for example, you know, when you're at school, for example, and someone goes away on holiday and they come back after Easter and they've been like, oh yeah, I went skiing. And maybe you've never heard of skiing before. Maybe you've never heard of the Alps, but you kind of think, oh God, I'm a bit jealous of that. Like, that sounds something that I'd be interested in doing as well. And I think from there, I've always had that kind of curiosity that would be a place that I'd like to explore one day. You hear a new place and you think, oh yeah, that's going to go on my list as well. And I think that's been from a young age. I mean, if you go to episode 31 of the podcast, which is called Japan, the Trip That Never Existed, that was from me when I was 14 years old. And I planned this trip in detail, like specific detail to the hour of like flights and everything and arriving in hotels for this solo trip to Tokyo at 14. Of course it didn't happen. I was 14 years old. I had no money and I was going on my own. Like, that's never going to happen. But I always had that urge to do it. And if you want to go and listen to that in more detail, that is, of course, episode 31. But yeah, we're going to start off with my solo travel trips. And that mainly started at 20. And there was a whole period beforehand where I talked about my gap year in one episode. And episode 1 talks about all my trips before India. So Romania, Bulgaria, and Slovenia, which at the moment, we are number 1 podcast in Slovenia, okay? So Slovenian listeners, thank you so much. And yeah, for those trips, I had no idea what to expect, but basically they were in preparation for India. And like they were good fun. I mean, I was stupid. Like, I never really booked anywhere to stay. So if I had like an early morning flight, which I often would at like 5 o'clock in the morning, first one out of Gatwick, I would go to Gatwick the night before and sleep on the floor somewhere, either under like the waiting bench area or elsewhere. And I'd often get moved on. So I had an awful night's sleep, but that kind of adventure it really excited me, kind of doing something a bit different and sleeping on a floor and going out the next day and exploring a whole new country. That was something that really, really excited me early on. And of course, like I say, that was all in preparation for my India trip. And prior to that, I'd looked up different YouTube videos, which I'm sure other people have done as well, of, I don't know, what to pack for 2 weeks in Thailand, what to do for 3 months in South America. And people would do these packing videos where they would lay all their stuff out on the bed and they'd be like, you think this is what we're taking? Oh no, we're going to get rid of half of this. And everyone's like, oh my God, no, what are you doing? You need all that stuff. And I thought I'd take that one step further when going to India, and I would lay out everything on the bed, all these things that I wanted to take, including the bag, and get rid of all of it. I would not take anything with me. I think that is probably one of the stupidest things I have ever done. And I look back now and kind of think, oh God, yeah, I struggled at the time, but maybe I'd do it again. And then I realize what I'm saying, and I think, no, I am never going to do that again for reasons that I'm going to tell you very, very shortly. Because traveling with no bags, where you're backpacking without the backpack, so just like is not fun. Like, that is not, it's not really a way to travel. It can often get you in some awkward, uncomfortable situations. And I mean, I never had that kind of intention, I suppose. I never really went with the idea of being like, okay, I am going to go with no bags and travel around this country that I've never been to before. I don't know anyone for 1 month. It kind of came, I suppose, organically. Like I always had that intention of going to India and setting up a life there. I had a 12-month visa. Again, I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but I always had the intention of going there, setting up work as an actor in Bollywood, and which actually happened, episode maybe 11 or 12 of the podcast, Bollywood film. I was on my third day, and I wanted to live there. I wanted to eventually turn that tourist visa for 12 months into a working one. And of course, I wanted to travel as well. So this 12-month visa that I had was multiple entry, so I could keep coming back and then return to my base in Mumbai. But I ended up staying in Mumbai for like 5-6 days, not very long at all. And then just began traveling around the country. Every time I'd arrive at a hostel, I was told like, no, what are you doing here? Have someone stolen your bags? Come in and sit down quickly. And I'd be like, no, this is just how I'm traveling. I look a mess. I'm sorry. But I was just wearing the same pair of clothes every day for 1 month, just going to place on sleeper buses or by tuk-tuk. It was honestly an incredible experience. But of course, stupid. I just had my phone charger, wallet and passport. Here's a picture of me in the airport beforehand. But yeah, it wasn't something that I'd recommend. But solo travel is a fantastic way of finding out more about yourself, whether you're going far afield in Southeast Asia or literally often I recommend this to people on my TikTok live. If you're thinking about solo travel, is to go to the city, like, I don't know, 100 miles away from you, somewhere that you know in your own country that you're potentially comfortable with, just to see how you cope on your own for a night or a couple of days or a week. And of course, you have that comfort of being able to return home by bus or by train in a matter of like hours, you know? And I think, so that's a really exciting thing. And so solo travel in general is an opportunity, I suppose, to meet people, to jump outside of your comfort zone. And I think hostels are a great way of doing that as well. In hostels, you're going to meet some amazing people, some interesting people, some not interesting people. The whole world is in these bunk beds. It is incredible. And as a result of being on your own, as a result of kind of taking that leap of solo travel, you are at the whim of everything and nothing. If you want to go somewhere, I don't know, that night, you can. You haven't got to wait for like a friend to be like, oh, no, I'm not sure I want to go out tonight. Or if you have, basically, I had no intention of leaving Mumbai, for example, but I met this guy who was heading north to this town called Udaipur, a guy called Richard. And he was like, hey, I'm going on this bus tomorrow morning or something. Do you want to come with me? And I'd be like, that sounds quite interesting. Like, I'd never thought of going to this town called Udaipur. I'd never heard of Udaipur, but I had like the best time there. I think solo travel is great for that. But the other side, it is solo travel. You are on your own. And sometimes that can be quite lonely, let's be honest. And I think that's why another great way to travel, let's move on to the next one, is traveling with one person, traveling with a friend. I think traveling with 3 people can sometimes be awkward. So a group of 3, because sometimes the 2 will take sides and then one person will be left out the whole time. And that's not great for anyone. But with 2 people, you're in things together, you know? And whether that is with a best friend, a loved one, a partner, a family member, or someone you hate, maybe you're really testing yourself. And I think that is great because you're sharing the experiences together. Yes, you're still going to get lonely. You're potentially thousands of miles away from home, but you have that person to laugh with, to cry with. And like I say, share those experiences with, because quite often with solo travel, I can find myself in a location, maybe let's say an art gallery, for example. Let's talk about the Mona Lisa. So a piece that everyone wants to see, or not necessarily everyone wants to see. I don't think I really want to see it, but it's one that we all know potentially. And I kind of think, if I were to see that, I'd want to share it with someone, to share that experience of being like, oh my God, I've seen this pretty much every month of my life somewhere, and now it is in the flesh. And it's a lot smaller than I imagined, you know? But if you're on your own, sometimes I find myself turning to Instagram a lot, or social media. And obviously that is fantastic. You're able to share your experiences with people and let people into something that they possibly would never have seen. But it can sometimes be very, very artificial. So I often find myself kind of putting on a smile, being like, oh yeah, I am here in Udaipur. I just spent 16 hours getting here. It was tough, but I'm ready to go on. And like, that is completely fake. Like I had an awful time on this bus. Like you can often present yourself in a way that you think you should be showing, if that makes sense. I think quite often there is a not necessarily a pressure, but because you are this person who is abroad, because you're this person who is on social media, you need to be showing a good time because other people don't necessarily have this opportunity. But like I say, if you're with a friend, it's great. A couple of experiences I've had. I went traveling with my friend Roland in 2018, I think it was, September 2018, or the end of August. And we went to Amsterdam. I'd never been to Amsterdam before. He'd never been to Amsterdam. And one of the places we went, which I had no intention of going to, was the Van Gogh Museum. And I obviously knew about this guy, but I didn't really care. Let's say that. Let's say I didn't really care because it was just an artist. Okay, yeah, I did art at GCSE at A-level, but I'm not really interested in his work, you know? But Roland wanted to go there, and then I kind of thought, do you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll go as well. And yes, I can say that with solo travel, you can make your own decisions. But sometimes when you're with someone and they really want to do something, it's not that you're forced to go, but you should go along as well, you know? And you have incredible experiences that you would never have even thought of before. Since then, like Van Gogh has become my idol. I've got his book not his book, he didn't write this book, but I've got like a book here of all his letters that he wrote to his brother Theo and other relatives. I've just been fascinated by his story because of that opportunity that I took to go there, because Roland wanted to go there. I was like, yeah, fantastic. And honestly, like, it is the best museum that I've ever been to. The work ethic that he had is inspiring. The story behind his life, the desire that he had to keep on going up until when he died was just like awe-inspiring. It is incredible. And I would never have had that experience if I hadn't have taken that opportunity, you know? And I think that is a fantastic feat. And like I say, you get to share those experiences. And I had this experience with Sabrina, my girlfriend, where we were in Rome. And I think it wasn't the first trip we had. It was, I think, maybe the second, which I think in my episode with Sabrina, I made this mistake. But there was a point where we were outside the Colosseum and we were just like, you know, kind of wandering around in awe of this place that we'd seen, like, you know, in magazines, magazines, do they exist anymore? In like online Facebook and stuff. And I kind of thought, wow, this is amazing. And of course we took the opportunity to take a few photos, as you do. And I said to Sabrina, go and stand outside there and I'll take one of you. And it's just a silly thing, but I told her to pose like Hercules, like one of these Greek Roman gods. So with your arms showing your muscles and kissing one and closing your eyes. And as I did this, I took a picture of Sabrina and I ran off. I just decided to be like, okay, and left her there, posed like this, looking absolutely ridiculous. But I think that is great because I know Sabrina and I had fun with that. But if I'd have done that as a solo traveler, just taking a picture for someone had asked me to take a picture, I told them to pose, and I didn't know this person, and then I ran off, I'd be arrested. Like, it's a big difference, but you know what I kind of mean. Like, you have that joy of experiencing different things together, whether fun, serious, or sad. You know, it's a great way to travel the world. And then lastly, one that I'm looking to experience in the future more is group travel, whether that be with a group of friends, like a lot of people at once, or people I've never met before. That really excites me. It's not that I don't want to do solo travel anymore, but I've never had that experience of spending a long time with people I don't really know, like actually almost living with for a week. You're staying in the same room sometimes with these people. And that is something that is appealing to me. I like the idea of everything being taken care of. So if you're traveling with a group tour, for example, they will organize where you're staying that night. They'll organize what you're having for lunch, for dinner, and often that is all included within the big price you pay. And so whether that be, I don't know, a trip to hiking to Machu Picchu, for example, a trek there, or doing a group tour of Paris, like those kind of things just really intrigue me, I suppose. And it's something that I'll definitely be exploring in the future. It's something that I want to take on next year. So in 2022, fingers crossed, if travel starts again, then I want to be going off and showing my experiences with, I don't have the cameras here, but I have a couple of smaller cameras that I'll be taking with me on these trips and showing you on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're looking out for those. So, of course, those are some fantastic ways to travel the world, to see everything. And I hope that has been useful in some way. I hope it's still recording, actually, this camera. I don't know if it lasts very long. God, I hope. I really hope so. But yeah, I've got some really, really exciting episodes to come that I'll be sharing here on YouTube, and just some vlogs in general. So I went to Lake District last year and filmed this epic video. Let's call it epic. And that's going to be released, I think, in 2 or 3 parts in the coming weeks. So make sure you look out for that. That will be out very, very soon. So, like I say, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you make sure you rate and review, follow on Spotify. Those are all things that you can do. And one little thing, actually, as this is the 50th episode, and I'll tell you this, one thing that I'm thinking of doing within the next few months is potentially releasing 2 episodes a week, which could be stupid. It could be a fantastic idea. But essentially, they're not going to be as long. So maybe it will be like a 10-minute country in the spotlight type profile. So I'll be looking at one specific place, talking about the amazing things you can do there, amazing groups that you can travel with, and some ideas for prices, whether that be budget, luxury, or I don't know if there's a middle ground, is there? Budgeting luxury, I don't know, something like that. So yeah, I'll be giving you kind of ideas for traveling in the future when the travel world obviously opens up again. Fingers crossed it's soon. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. I think I need to tell you the answers to the quiz, because I know you're desperate. I can see you through the camera. I can see you through the headphones. You're desperate to find out. So Mount Everest is, of course, in Nepal. Nepal is where you'll find Mount Everest in the Himalayas. Machu Picchu is, of course, in Peru. The Brandenburg Gate is in Germany. Here's a picture of me outside. The Spanish Steps, did you get this one? They are in Rome, in Italy. I spoke about it today. Rome in Italy. And actually, here's a picture of me outside them as well, or on them. That was from my trip with Sabrina, funnily enough. And then lastly, Petra. Go and take a look at this place. Look how beautiful it is. This is Petra, and it is in Jordan. And honestly, that is one place that I cannot wait to go and visit in the future. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And have a fantastic week. See you later.